Matt, thank you so much for helping us work on this awesome Coda template. We'd love to have you do a quick walkthrough. Could you please tell us all about who you are and how what people should learn and take away from reading and using this template?
So Matt Cooper, CEO of Skillshare. Yeah, I think what the original blog post really sort of spun out a lot of conversations I have with other CEOs and execs at various startups and growth companies. Is just how do they operate? How do they run? What are their best practices? What have they found works? This is kind of the version of what we have found to work. And this is constantly evolving. That idea of layering in what do you need to do every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year, and figuring out what that cadence is for you and what works best for your company.
How did you decide on these four buckets as the operating cadence at Skillshare?
I mean, a lot of it was trial and error. It has changed also just as we've grown. When you're a 35-person company, which is where we were when I started, versus 150 people now, what works at smaller doesn't work at larger, and what works at larger doesn't work at really large. Things kind of move around between the buckets. We used to do quarterly reviews.
Maybe we can dive into a couple of these exercises in the different cadences. Start with the annual, semi-annual. Can you tell us a little bit about how you approach reviews at Skillshare?
Then these semi-annual touch points for the formal review process are really just documenting a lot of things that you've already been talking about, and just taking a minute to step back and think about that employee's development and personal, professional development more holistically. So I think what we have found is this is the right balancing act between, if you do it too frequent, it's just a lot of overhead. If you don't do it frequent enough, too long a period goes on between taking that step back and thinking about how things are going.
From template perspective, the idea here is if you copy the template, you can have a list of employees or direct reports and provide simple ratings or leave feedback this way. And this can also all be customized, of course. In terms of the quarterly cadences, I thought the roadmap refresh was interesting. Can you speak more about that little exercise as well?
This is tied pretty closely into our annual plan. Annual plans are great for setting a longer stage, put a goalpost of where you want to get to, but it's just too long for any kind of detailed product road mapping. So we set those big milestones out over the course of the year, but then we're doing much more detailed quarterly road mapping, which again, it feels like the right balance of sort of, the detail and fidelity that goes into a quarterly roadmap is just impossible to project on a longer basis. I don't think you want to do any shorter than that.
And we tried to codify that in this template by making this little roadmap here easily refreshable, I guess you could say. So you can drag and drop these bars and it automatically changes launch dates, and you can change the dates here as well, and also change the bars to make it easy to, again, refresh the roadmap like Matt said. To the monthly side, I thought the way you structure all hands at Skillshare is also pretty unique, and curious if this is still the same format in terms of the bullets here.
So it's funny that this is one that has actually evolved a bit. This worked great for us for several years. I think if this is a quick touch point, kind of, again, quick progress reports, anything we need to deep dive on, in and out in 30 minutes to an hour, I think this model can work.
And if you decide to use this template, the structure that they used to have at Skillshare was, again, I was saying, reviewing the OKRs here, having free form place to write notes, and then also they used to have like this Ask Skillshare Anything Q&A where you can just add questions and people can provide answers and comments as necessary. Going into the weekly, bi-weekly one, cadence, are there any specific meetings that you thought would be interesting to call out that are still happening at Skillshare?
Our management meetings, the way we structure it now, this has evolved a bit. So we do a Monday meeting to go through the weekly performance and just the core weekly metrics and understand what's going on in the business. And then we're still doing our Wednesday strategy meetings. What we try to do in those is have people come in advance with either a document or a write-up, send it out Monday night, give us time on Tuesday to go through it in more detail, drop comments, and then we're coming into the Wednesday strategy session. Those types of things are really important. Just making sure that all of the follow-up is buttoned down so you don't have a great discussion and then it all just kind of falls to the floor when you walk out of the meeting. That's obviously very important. It's something that this would help with quite a bit.
Then speaking of the Wednesday meeting session, you can also in this template embed Google slide decks and other various things. And I just embedded this one that is actually from the former
Yeah, that's old
founder.
school. I like it.
Yeah, very, very old
I don't
presentation.
think I've even seen that one, so I'll have to check that out.
Any final thoughts, best practices, and tips you want to share with teams that are thinking about applying your meeting cadences at Skillshare to their own organizations?
There's probably a lot of unnecessary angst around getting it right the first time. You tend to stick with these cadence and processes longer than you should, even when you've outgrown them or when you realize it's not quite working because you just don't want to change it. It sort of feels like admitting you got it wrong to begin with. We've just thrown in the towel on that. And when we realize something's not working, we change it. It's just getting comfortable with the fact that you need to constantly evolve and iterate on how you run your business the same way you constantly evolve and iterate how you build your products. You got to find the right balancing act. You can't change every single week, but every now and then just taking a step back and having a very frank discussion around what parts of this cadence is working and or not working for you and your business and your team. That's just an important part of how you evolve as a company and as a manager.
Thank you so much, Matt, for working on with us on this template. And hopefully teams out there get a chance to operate similar to the way Skillshare does.
Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate it.